Who is the creepiest man you've ever met? Around 3 months ago, my family moved to the suburbs after living our whole lives in the inner city. We went from a tiny, overpriced apartment to a beautiful ranch house on the outskirts of Texas. To say that the change in scenery, lifestyle, and community was overwhelming would be an understatement, but we've grown to appreciate it for what it is. My sister just got her first job at a nearby restaurant as a hostess, so on the days that I don't have school, I'm tasked with picking her up from work. Around 2 weeks ago, I did my usual routine of picking her up, however this time I noticed my sister seemed a bit off. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me that she had a feeling that one of the customers was stalking her. It's obviously a very skeptical assumption to make, but my sister isn't really the type to joke about things like that. In the past, one of my ex-boyfriends from high school ended up going crazy after we broke up to the point where he would pull up to our apartment every night for a week, banging on the front door and begging me to come out. My stepdad had to confront him multiple times and even threatened to beat him up on numerous occasions, but he never relented. He always left before the cops would come, so he never got into any trouble legally, but he was suspended from school for about a week, and the harassment ended there. All this to say that my sister knows not to joke about things like that. She practically lived through it when it happened to me, so I immediately began to question her about it. She explained that it started a few days into her new job. The man had blonde hair and brown eyes, in his mid-30s. He walked in, and she sat him down, handed him a menu, and told him his server would be there for him shortly. He made a passive joke about how she should take care of him instead, but she just smiled and walked back to her stand. The following shifts were full of him making similar jokes, which she would always just brush off, until one time he grabbed her arm as she was handing him a menu, not letting go until a nearby waiter confronted him. The whole time he held her hand, he kept begging her to go out with him, how he could treat her well. All she had to do was give him a chance. I want to stress the fact that my sister does not look a day over 15. She doesn't wear makeup, she rarely styles her hair into anything other than a ponytail, and she doesn't even wear jewelry. There's of course nothing wrong with doing any of that. Hell, I looked 20 when I was 16, but I'm saying all of this to emphasize the fact that this grown 30-year-old man was trying his luck with an obvious minor. There's no way he could have mistaken her for anything other than that. The manager ended up kicking the guy out, telling him not to come back, and that was that. Until she started noticing him parked out in front of the restaurant, always backed into the same spot, where he would stare at her for the entirety of her shift. She talked to her manager about it, but the manager said as long as he wasn't coming into the restaurant, he couldn't do anything about it. He would always leave around an hour before closing time, so neither I nor my parents saw him when we went to pick her up. She said that at this point he had to have had her schedule memorized, as he knew what days and times she worked, and always left right before she did. I was enraged. The fact that my sister had to suffer through all of this at the hands of an obvious disgusting pervert sent chills throughout my whole body. I knew what it was like to be harassed to the point that you feared for your life, and I didn't want my baby sister to go through that. Once we got home, we told our parents about it. My stepdad drove my sister to work the next day and told her to call him if the man returned. He said that if the manager wasn't going to deal with it, he damn sure was. So it happened. My sister called my stepdad once the man pulled into the parking lot, and true to his word he rushed over to the restaurant, banged on the man's window, and threatened him to leave my sister alone or the next knock would be a baseball bat through the window. The harassment stopped, at least for a couple of days. 2 nights ago it was my turn to pick her up, and we were in high spirits. Neither of us had work or school the next day, so we were planning a trip to the movies or the mall. The restaurant is next to a few other stores and neighboring restaurants in what I can describe as a mini strip mall. Everything seemed fine, however, once we pulled out of the parking lot, a red truck began to slowly trail us. Nothing out of the ordinary, I thought. Maybe the person inside was also someone leaving work. The ride back home was not more than 9 minutes, so it became glaringly obvious that with every turn we made, the truck subsequently mimicked that we were being followed. 2 seconds after we would turn on our blinker, the truck would mimic us, never putting on a turning signal before us. Our neighborhood is spread out, the next house isn't that close. We all have our roads that lead to our houses, so it's a straight road with turns left and right that lead you down another long road to your driveway. Ours was the very last right turn, so we are essentially the last house. This means that there is no way to accidentally stumble upon a house unless you really don't know where you're going. The car behind us followed us down this first long road. Okay, fine, maybe I had it all wrong, they were most likely someone in the neighborhood. I was waiting for them to make a turn, not taking my eyes off of the rearview mirror. I had gone silent at this point, even turning down the volume. My sister asked if I was okay, and when I told her my suspicions of the red truck, her face fell. I turned to her, silently urging her to speak, but I knew. I could tell from her face, how her eyes grew wide, how she began frantically craning her neck to catch a glimpse of the red truck. She confirmed my fears, it was the guy from the restaurant. I began speeding up, not caring about anything but making it home. I yelled at my sister to call our stepdad, which she did with trembling fingers. As soon as she relayed the situation we were in, all I could hear was scuffling from the other end. I felt better knowing he knew and was awaiting us. I made a sharp turn down our street, and the man followed. I parked next to my stepdad's large pickup. The man hit the brakes a few feet away. All of a sudden, A large bang was heard. Now, this is Texas, so it's safe to say that we have weapons and we all know how to use them. Especially now that we live on the outskirts, we make sure to always know where they are located and how to access them. The sound we heard was a warning shot that our stepdad had fired. The truck without hesitation peeled out of the driveway, speeding down the road, and vanished into the dark night.